Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stronger Marriage webinar. I'm really excited to introduce you to our special guest, Tiffany Roe. Tiffany is a licensed clinical mental health counselor, award-winning psychology teacher, host of the Therapy Thoughts podcast, speaker, OG Therapy is Cool merch creator, and owner of Mindful Counseling in Orem, Utah. She's working to change the mental health game by breaking stigmas and making mental health support and education accessible. Today, Tiffany's presentation for us is titled Finding Your Authentic Self in a Relationship, where she'll be teaching you how to get to know yourself again and live true to yourself in a relationship. There will be an anonymous Q&A session with Tiffany for the final 15 to 20 minutes of the 1 hour webinar. So save your questions for the end and use the Q&A feature instead of the chat. And feel free to write them down if you have questions pop up throughout, so you don't forget. This workshop's also approved for 1 continuing education credit. You can email me at marriagecommission@usu.edu to request a certificate after the webinar. All right, Tiffany, the time is yours. We're so excited to hear from you today. And yeah, I just want to give you as much time as possible so you can go ahead and get started.
Let's rock and roll. I love it. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to talk about this topic. I've been in a partnership with my spouse for 13 years, and I have radically evolved during my marriage. And I've deconstructed a lot of different aspects of my identity, major belief systems, and feel really passionate about evolution in relationships. And I'm so excited to give you some really tangible ideas on how to nourish yourself, how to find your most authentic self within that dynamic of a relationship. You can drop your questions in the chat, and then we'll officially engage with me in the chat. I can see that, but then we'll do that official Q&A at the end. So don't hold back. Everything is fair game. Let's jump into this, my friends. So if I had to break this down into an outline, this is how you're going to find yourself. We're going to talk about identifying your needs and actually do that. Anytime I present, I want to make sure you walk away with real tools, skills, and support. And so we're not going to just talk about your needs. We're going to actually identify them. So take notes, grab a pen and paper, type it up in your phone, but let's make this interactive so you're leaving with some real mental health skills. We're going to then identify your values. It's such a game changer to know what your values are. And this is crucial in being your authentic self and evolving and changing and not just adapting the values that you were raised with, but really defining them. We're going to look at identity exploration. What's it mean to define your identity? How does that evolve and shift? And how do you claim that? We're going to talk about dismantling codependency. A lot of us have codependent tendencies in our relationships. We'll talk about what that means and how to dismantle that. And then last, we'll talk about boundaries. So crucial in this evolution of authenticity in relationships. So let's jump in. We're going to take notes. Let's party. We're going to start with identifying needs and values. So think about being authentic as being your best friend, knowing yourself, accepting, embracing, having compassion for yourself. And really, it's the crucial foundation for self-love, which we all need in relationships. Ask yourself every day what you need and make sure that you receive it. That's what we're going to break down. Needs and values. So when it comes to needs, this is the foundational component to self-care. Self-care is knowing and meeting your needs. And we all have the right to meet our needs. Self-care is a right. It's a human right. If you are not identifying your needs and taking steps to meet them and address them, you're going to be depleted. And what we're going to find out is that no one else is responsible for meeting our needs. We are responsible for meeting our needs in adulthood. This is a big transition of differentiation. We leave childhood, we leave adolescence, and we become fully formed adults, different than our parents, differentiating from our caretakers and becoming who we are with our own unique set of values and needs. So we all have the right to meet those, and we step into accountability and responsibility to do that as adults. So this is crucial to say, this is on me. I'm taking that accountability. I'm going to start making those moves. By identifying your needs and then meeting them, you are sending a huge message to yourself that says, I matter And it's important to take care of me. And we're not waiting for someone to come ride up on a white horse and be our savior and take care of us without us having to do anything. We're taking responsibility and saying, I matter, and I am going to treat myself as if I do. And that treatment of self with care and love and nourishment and meeting your needs is foundational for everything else. How do we expect ourselves to set boundaries if we don't think our needs matter? Boundaries are a result of understanding that our needs matter, that our limits matter, that what we feel matters. So needs are crucial in this evolution of self. Let's identify these. So I'm going to pull up a big list here for you. And I want you to go through, look over this with me. Acceptance, accomplishment, affection, appreciation. We're going to go through all of these, and you can just jot down in your notes which ones aren't being met. And then also note which ones are being met. So maybe you don't have a lot of autonomy, but you do have a lot of challenge. What we want to do is assess this list of human needs and say which areas are being met, which areas are not being met. And then we can go with that assessment and make moves and intervene and nourish or choose behaviors or actions that will help. Look through these with me. Attention of others, authenticity, autonomy, awareness, beauty, being listened to, celebration of life, challenge, choice, clarity, closeness, communication, community, companionship, compassion, connection, consciousness, consideration, consistency. And just pause. Watch out for any judgment. We're just observing and noticing, like, oh yeah, I don't really have a strong show up of choice in my life. I'm not meeting that need of having choice. And I am meeting the need of compassion. We're just noting it. We're not judging you for whether you have it or don't. This is an assessment. We want to get to know where you're at with your needs. The second column right here, contribution, cooperation, creativity, discovery, ease, effectiveness, efficacy, empathy, quality, expressing feelings, feeling competent, financial security, food. Think about some of these. If you're not meeting your need of nutrition, food, having access to food, bare minimum human needs, if those aren't being met, it's going to be impossible to meet the higher order needs of like intimacy and vulnerability when we don't have safety, right? So we want to assess these to be like, wow, yeah, I'm not eating, I'm dieting hardcore, I'm low energy, I'm not getting sleep. And that's going to be an intervention I'm going to really encourage you to take. Look at these other ones: freedom, friendship, fun, and play. So many of us lose that in adulthood. Growth, guidance, harmony, honesty, hope, humor, inclusion. Third column, independence, integrity, intimacy, joy, to know and be known. Being met or not being met. Learning, loyalty, to matter, meaning, mourning, movement or exercise, mutuality, nurturing, order, participation, peace, physical safety and security, physical touch, that's a human need, presence, progress towards your goals, purpose, respect, self-respect, safety. And then this fourth column, the last ones for you to explore: security, to be seen and to see, self-expression, sense of belonging, sexual expression, shelter, sleep, space, spiritual awareness, spontaneity, stability, stimulation, support, touch, trust, unconditional love, to be understood, validation, water, and warmth. You can continue to edit and assess your needs. Every day, you now have access to saying, are my needs being met? What do I need? I need joy. Gosh, I've been so stressed. We've been in this pandemic for years. I need a sense of joy. So when you know that's a need that you have, you can then ask the big question, so how do I meet it? What do I need? And how do I address that need? How do I nourish it and nurture it? So by now you should have noted what you have met, what you don't have met, and what we're going to do is make an action plan. Are there other needs that haven't been listed in this? By no means is this a all-inclusive comprehensive list, okay? There are other needs I didn't write down, and maybe you're like, gosh, I have this specific need that she didn't list. Write that down. That's okay. Next question: which ones are important to you? And are you satisfied? So one assessment is what's being met, what's not being met. Another assessment is, are these important and am I satisfied? Which of these are actually getting fulfilled at this time? And you could journal about this. And even at the end of the day, make this part of your nighttime routine, what's met and what's not met. What areas are you coming up short? And non-judgmental assessment here. Hallelujah, we're finally calling this out. What needs do I have personally and in my relationship, and where are we coming up short? And this is the most important part, folks. Our egos are going to want to say, cool, meet all 50 of these needs every day for the next 2 years. And that's overwhelming. We want, like, when we have that radical draw to upheaval everything, we want to pause and take actual consistent, sustainable intervention, which means what's a concrete step you could take in the next few weeks and months to satisfy one, maybe two that are not being met. I would say this week, pick one. If you don't have fun being nurtured or play, pick that, for example, and say, I'm going to work on fun and play for the next week. How do I nurture that? And jot down ideas and brainstorm. Just pick one or two and make it sustainable and realistic. And what needs do you notice you may compromise trying to meet other needs? So many of us, for example, would compromise sleep or rest for intimacy. Maybe you have kids or you're in a partnership and it's like, gosh, the only time we can connect is after the kids go to bed, but that's late. So we're staying up late, right? There is no perfection in this. It's a dance. So that's why we keep taking this pulse. What needs do I have? Am I meeting them? Do we have to shift? What's changing? And this dance back and forth with yourself and with your partner. And is there a better way to satisfy my needs? If I'm compromising these, is there a way that we could prioritize this need without sacrificing other needs? And just reflect and brainstorm. And if you're doing this every week, like an analysis and a reflection on your needs, you're going to make some serious steps in your mental health. And you're going to be meeting those needs better and more aware of what your needs are and more aware when your needs aren't being met. Let's dive into the next interactive, values. Values are different than needs. Needs are core human. We have to have this stuff. We all need these to be fulfilled. Values are different. This is deeply held principles, deeply held beliefs, deeply held ideals. When you identify your values, you're allowed to then honor and nurture them. So every time we think about self-care is identifying and knowing your needs. We just identified your needs. Now we're going to look at values. How do the things you're doing to take care of yourself reflect your values? If you really value family, the ways you take care of yourself might really focus on that. Family time, making memories, doing stuff as a family. If you really value autonomy, that might look like alone time or journaling or having a side hustle, right? Your values and the things that are most important to you are going to fuel how you take care of yourself and your behaviors in your relationship. So I want you to mindfully identify and honor your values and caring for yourself. We're going to do that together today. Let's identify them. Again, I want you to take notes here. This list is robust, so I'll give you some ideas on how to do this. My suggestion is write out 3 columns on a piece of paper. For example, like so. I'm drawing it over here. 3 columns with these 3 terms. Very important, important, not important. So we're going to list the values that are very important in this column, the values that are important in this column, and the values that are not important in this column. This is a way for you to organize them. Another way you could do this is print out a values list and star the ones that are very important, circle the ones that are important, and X the ones that are not important. A way for you to conceptualize and organize this is simply what this means. But I suggest doing this for the sake of time. 3 columns, very important, important, not important. Here's a big list, and I would go through and start to identify, is family very important, important, or not important? Now listen up. Most of us have been told that family should be very important. And I want you to have an honest assessment here without shame or judgment. If it's not important to you, identify that. If it's important, if it's very important, yours, not your family's, not the culture, not a belief system that you were raised in, but what is really valuable to you, your deeply held beliefs. And maybe this is going to show you something different than what you've always been taught. You have permission right now to be super honest and authentic. Being authentic in a relationship is the goal here. Family, important, very important, not important. So I'll just read all of these off and you can try to jot them down quickly or take a note. What stands out is very important if that's all you have time to do. Freedom. Security. Loyalty. Intelligence. Connection. Creativity. Humanity. Success. Respect. Let me pause there. Let me give you permission. If this is too fast and you're not able to write these down, you can take a screenshot of this. This is more about your analysis right here and right now. If you only have time to write down the ones that are the most important to you, that's okay. These can change, these can shift. Just identify them the best you can. And if I'm going too quick, just get a screenshot. This isn't your only chance to see this. Respect, invention, diversity, generosity, integrity, finesse, love, openness, religion, order, advancement, respect, a work smarter, not harder attitude, excitement, change, goodness, involvement, faith, wisdom, beauty, caring, personal development, this too shall pass attitude, honesty, adventure, kindness, teamwork, career, communication, learning, excellence, innovation, quality. Now you might notice at this point, we're almost halfway through, that you don't know, and that's okay. Or maybe it's really easy or it's kind of hard. This isn't a blood oath. These can change and maybe they're different right now or you're not sure. You don't have to overanalyze this, just go with your gut. Commonality, contributing, spiritualism, strength, entertainment, wealth, speed, power, affection, cooperation, love of career, relationship, encouragement, pride in your work, clarity, fun-loving, charisma, humor, leadership, renewal, home. And just pause here for a second and do a mindset check. Are you getting judgmental? Are you criticizing yourself? Are you critiquing yourself? stick with me here. Identifying your values is crucial in authenticity in a relationship. Even if you're just pointing out the ones that are the most important to you, this is really valuable. There's no right or wrong answers. You're doing a great job. Last two columns: compassion, fitness, professionalism, relationship, knowledge, patience, change, prosperity, wellness, finances, gratitude, grace, endurance, facilitation, effectiveness, fun, fame, justice, appreciation, willingness, patience. Last column: self-respect, abundance, reciprocity, enjoyment, entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship, happiness, harmony, trusting your gut, giving people a chance, forgiveness, balance, peace, forgiveness, a couple repeats, being true, contentment, friendship, courage, and then joy and play. You can screenshot this before I change slides to do some of the reflection questions if you need to. I want you to pick your top 5. Now, here's the rules. A lot of us get anxiety like, gosh, I can't just pick 5. Again, this isn't a blood contract, and these could change tomorrow. But for today, as you identify your authentic self, what you're feeling like your values are, what's really important to you right here and right now, that's enough. That's good enough. And these can shift and change. And, we don't have time to do this in a very in-depth way. So we're just going with it. Pick your top 5. If you had to circle some of the ones that stood out to you, that are the most important to you, that you feel like you really value, even if you're not living in line with them, even if they're different than what you've been told you should value, go for it. And here's some reflection questions. What would your self-care look like if you focused on honoring these values? How would you meet your needs? How would you take care of yourself? I really value mental health, so I make time for therapy every week when it's not convenient or easy. That's how my self-care looks when I honor my values. So think about that. What can I do to protect these values? Let's just keep going with this example of mental health. How do I protect these values? I take medication. I don't cancel my therapy appointments. I make time to feel my feelings. I make sure to meet my basic needs like sleep and food and water. I make sure to set boundaries. That's how you protect something you really care about. Is there anything I do to threaten the things I value? Threaten mental health. That would be procrastinating sleep or putting it off, not getting enough rest, canceling therapy appointments, dropping my meds, not being honest with my partner, or talking about the things I need. Reflect on these things without shame, but hey, and for me, something that threatens my mental health would be overworking, working too much, ignoring my need for balance and rest, and just focusing on career only. So think about things you might do that might be subtle or sophisticated that threaten the things that are most important to you. Would someone who knows me really well agree that these things are your values? So those top 5 things that you picked Are the people who are close to you in your life, your partner, other people, do they think, yeah, those align for that person? If so, why? Think about that. If not, what's that mean? And then what can I do to nurture and honor these values using self care this month? So I would just pick one thing. Look at those top 5 values and grab one. Let's say you want to focus on mental health. Here you are attending a virtual conference that's nurturing relationship, nurturing, your need for intimacy and self improvement and all this kind of stuff. What are other things you can do to nurture the values that are the most important things to you? What would those behaviors look like? Let's jump into identity. This is the third piece of finding authenticity in a relationship. How do we develop identity, especially when we're evolving and changing in relationships, right? Focusing on your needs, focusing on what you like, what you enjoy, what's your truth, focusing on that, the real answers, the honesty, the true authentic expression of that, instead of trying to shape shift to match each person you meet or match each relationship you're in. That's kind of this codependency we have, or people pleasing a lot of us have through trauma responses. Focus instead on you, your needs, what you like, your truth, your enjoyment, instead of how do I just get others' approval. This is what identity exploration would really boil down to. I love the idea of doing inner child work. I always imagine me, 38-year-old me with my arm around 7-year-old me, 10-year-old me, 16-year-old me, 25-year-old me, being like, hey, what do we need? I will protect you. I will meet your needs. Your feelings matter to me. I am here for you now. I'm not going to ignore you or shame you or talk bad to you. And this commitment of fiercely protecting and standing by ourselves, you always choose you. You choose yourself. And that will help you connect in relationships. The more deeply connected you are to yourself, the more empathy and compassion, the more we know ourselves, the more deeply we can connect, really. So doing inner child work is another great way to explore your identity. Being vulnerable, being honest, being transparent, even when it's scary. I suggest first doing this with yourself and then sharing with your partner in a relationship of, here's how I'm really feeling. This could be something big. Maybe you're having a shift in religious belief. Maybe your sexual identity is shifting or something's coming up there. Maybe your relationship to like cultural norms is changing. Political beliefs are changing. There's a lot we deconstruct as we age and as we differentiate, as we learn new information and get education. Instead of avoiding our truth or communicating that because we're afraid of how people will respond, dedicating to choosing yourself, even in the face of rejection, and as scary as that is good for you. When you choose yourself, being vulnerable, being honest, being transparent leads to intimacy, leads to connection. Vulnerability breeds that. It breeds connection. So practice doing that with yourself, journaling, or just allowing your thoughts to be really honest with yourself, and then connecting with others. Another way to explore your identity is to choose self-compassion over perfectionism. We want you to get your own back. Be a cool friend to yourself. Instead of demanding perfection, giving yourself some grace, cutting yourself some slack, treating yourself like you would a friend. Every time you bravely and courageously choose yourself, even if others reject you, you build a really strong foundation of self-worth. So the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship in your life. You belong to yourself first. And if you betray yourself trying to be accepted by your partner, that doesn't actually facilitate a true relationship of authenticity, vulnerability, empathy, and connection. You got to show up as real as you can to have that deep intimacy that we all want. When you fearlessly deconstruct your beliefs, magic happens. The more you dedicate to yourself, the more you identify your specific identity and explore that. Even if it means you'll be different than people in your family, even if you differ than your partner, you can still be loved, seen, accepted, and belong in your truth. All humans want these things: to be loved, to be accepted, and to belong. And so we are willing to betray ourselves and lie and ignore and hide out of seeking safety, belonging, and love. I am telling you, through authenticity, through truth, through vulnerability, choosing yourself, you can have love, safety, and belonging. If you want to rebuild identity and you're deconstructing, or there's things you're trying to do differently and you're trying to evolve with a partner, evolve in a relationship, focus on your personal values, which we've identified. Focus on your goals. What do you want? Focus on boundaries, which we're going to define. Your needs, we've also defined those. Think about your dreams, your choices, autonomy. This is an ongoing journey, an ongoing exploration of your authentic exploration of self. This is vulnerability. It's a journey. Every night when you lay down to go to sleep, sitting with yourself and saying, what's my truth? What would it be like to share that? Every time you're thinking about identity and exploring that or changing that, before you commit to identity, you first have to explore. Exploration precedes commitment. So we don't really settle on things until we explore them. However, when we are raised with our parents' ideals or cultural norms, we just are born into commitment. This is the way things are. And as you evolve in relationships, you may notice things are shifting or changing. That's because we're allowed to explore as we get out of that childhood brain and step into adulthood. So as you're rebuilding identity or changing identity, know that exploration is crucial before you commit. Exploring ideas, exploring new notions, exploring new beliefs, new values, new needs, new education, all these things, that exploration can help you settle into an identity that feels really authentic for you. So there's 4 stages of identity development that occur typically in adolescence, but a lot of us go through these later in life just when we learn new information. Identity diffusion, identity foreclosure, moratorium, and identity achievement. This next slide is going to show you like in a grid what that looks like. But all of these just represent a different configuration of how a teenager or a youth or a kid would progress towards committing to an identity. So they explore identity until they commit to values, beliefs, and goals that represent who they are. So this is like developmental psychology, how we develop over time. How do teenagers become the adults that they settle into? How do we just settle into the identities that we have? This whole identity theory breaks this down. You can have this broken into a couple different things. Are you having crisis or no crisis? Is there commitment or no commitment? So remember, this is exploring, exploration, and commitment. So if you don't have any commitment and you are in crisis, this is called identity moratorium. You're exploring all kinds of things: beliefs, politics, religion, sexuality, nutrition, all the things in the world that people kind of settle into with identity. If you're in identity moratorium, typically teenagers are doing this. They're trying out different things to decide where they're at. And if you're in crisis, but there's been a commitment made, identity achieved. Oh, I think these are backwards. I think we have crisis and no crisis mixed up. Sorry, folks. But you can read these definitions to get really clear on what we're trying to communicate. If you've achieved your identity and you know who you are, you've accepted your social, religious, political, vocational alternatives, you've explored this stuff. If you're in identity foreclosure, your commitment to beliefs has been predetermined. So usually this is, religious, you've adopted religious beliefs, social beliefs, political beliefs, gender norms, you never questioned it. Identity diffusion is it's ambiguous. You're not really sure. It's diffused. It's not a strong sense. You haven't committed. You don't really know where you're at. You don't have this sense of self. Just notice where you might be. Are you achieved, foreclosed, diffused, in a moratorium, and say, okay, so I have more exploration to do until I'm really settled into my new belief system. This is, again, just an assessment. But changing identity is going to happen in relationships, and it's part of this authentic exploration of self. Here's some rules to think about as you're going through identity change. Once you know better, you do better. And when we mess up, because we all mess up, we have self-compassion, we remind ourselves we're still growing up. We're all still growing up. We're all learning all the time. New information comes to us. We're using that and we're evolving. Relationships are not happening in a vacuum. You're with someone else. There's other people involved. So we're constantly evolving and adapting. Authenticity is an ongoing process. So you get to remind yourself as we do this authenticity thing that you can have this journey with grace and curiosity and compassion instead of judgment. I always say ride the wave. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything you believe. This doesn't have to be perfect. Someone can only know us as intimately as we know ourselves. So If you're in a relationship trying to find your true self, every new relationship is new exploration time for you. How do we show up? Are there patterns? Curiosity, okay? That's way better than judgment or self criticism. Set some time aside to reflect on your identity. Here's some questions to think about. What do I believe? What do I not believe? What do I need to explore? What am I already committed to? What's important to me? What are my dreams? What are my strengths? What are my interests? And then cultivate yourself. Spend time to focus on your identity. Give time, give attention, give energy, give love, effort, intention into your personal development. Who am I? This is going to be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social. So think about when you care about something and you go all in, can you give that same time and energy and space to yourself? Now we're talking about some other things. What are your boundaries? Jot those down. What are boundaries that I have? We'll go deeper into that in a couple slides. How do I want to express myself? Am I wanting to change anything about how I identify or how I show up in the world? Do I have any fear conditioning about how I want to show up? Maybe like how you dress, how you speak, your language, the energy you bring to the world. All these things that represent identity, you're allowed to explore those. Another question a lot of us want to think about when it comes to identity and reflecting these deathbed thoughts. What are you most afraid of regretting? Most people have the regrets of, I wish I didn't work so much, wish I'd lived the life I wanted, wish I'd taken time to share my passions, I wish I'd been more real. So are any of those things that you would think about regretting, and then think about, how do I live in line so I'm not living with those regrets? How do I be in integrity? Codependency, real quick. What does codependency mean? My needs don't matter. And I need you to have problems so I feel okay. I don't want you to feel bad because my worth is based on self sacrifice and taking care of others. If you're not okay, I'm not okay. And if I'm not okay, you're not okay. It's this really enmeshed, I am you, you are me, my own needs don't matter. And I get a sense of worth from caretaking and sacrificing. That's codependency in a nutshell. And what I want to say is a couple things to help interrupt that. Get help if you're stuck in codependency. Give up the idea that you're responsible for other people's happiness. Develop boundaries. You have your needs listed. Have a list of needs around having develop boundaries, and then develop a list of needs, having that around so you don't have to control or manage everyone else's life. Emotional boundaries that we can all set. This isn't mine to fix. If you struggle with codependency and outsourcing your worth through loving and taking care of others, and a good emotional boundary to practice is, I'm not responsible for others' happiness, and this isn't mine to fix. Learn to let go of playing the rescuer and the savior. Establish where you end and where other people begin. You and your partner are two separate beings. You're not each other's parents. How do we evolve together? Where do I end? Where do they begin? Cultivate yourself. Again, these questions we've talked about. What are you interested in? What matters to you? What do you value? Start to practice detachment from relationship as sense of soul worth. How do you develop worth outside of this definition of relationship? Let go of the need to control other people and practice communication, communicating this stuff. I'm feeling really dysregulated or upset when X, Y, or Z happens. How can I support you without having to fix it? Where do boundaries come from? We want to set boundaries to help this all go. They come from deep decisions about what you believe. What do I deserve? What I don't deserve? They come from beliefs about what we want and need, what's important, what's not important. Boundaries come from a sense of knowing I have personal rights and I have the right to take care of myself. Boundaries emerge when we learn to value, trust, and listen to ourselves. So if you believe your boundaries matter, that probably means you know your needs and that they matter. You know your values, that they matter. So this is kind of a sequential process here in this presentation. We're identifying how to get out of this codependency and how to say my boundaries matter too. You know your needs, your values, practice self-respect and assertive communication. That's kind of the sweet sauce for boundaries. Here's a couple facts. Boundaries protect you. They communicate what's safe for you. They express your needs. They enable relationships, and they clarify your limits. Boundaries do not, big myths here. Boundaries do not change others. Boundaries do not control the future. Boundaries don't change the past. Boundaries don't eliminate conflict, and they don't remove emotion. Boundaries are part of ongoing communication and relationships that are crucial in relationships, especially if you want to have that intimacy and authenticity. Here's some language cheat sheet for saying boundaries. I'm not comfortable with that. I can't do that. No is a great boundary. You can look through these. I don't have to read them all for the sake of time. But notice if there's one, oops, I'll go back. Notice if there's one that kind of sticks out to you, like, hey, I'm going to practice just saying no without explaining myself, or yes to this part, no to that part. Here's my limit. I need time. I have a different priority. I need space. I don't want to do that. I mean, us saying what we need can feel really scary in this like codependent society that we have. Boundaries enable relationships. What that means is when you say what you need and when you clarify limits, you can work with people instead of avoiding, ghosting, cutting people off, having toxic patterns, and instead just being assertive. Here's a 3-step process to setting boundaries. Express gratitude, express a clear boundary, express the importance of the relationship. Let's say someone invites you out something and you don't want to go or you can't, you're busy. Hey, thanks for inviting me. I'm not going to go tonight. This relationship matters to me. Invite me again. Easy. And if someone's reactive to that, know that that's kind of weird. Boundaries aren't weird. Boundaries are cool. Boundaries are normal. There's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, the answer is no. So you can practice those. I want to keep it simple for the sake of time so I can open up questions here in a couple minutes, but we'll leave kind of the boundary setting at that. I'm going to skip a couple other things. The last thing I want to get to, skippity doo dah. I want to talk about this because most people think if people don't follow my boundaries, does that just mean I have to like cut off relationships? Absolutely not. There's so much gray area. Cutting off a relationship or like someone's dead to me or like no contact is one small piece of the pie of boundaries. Like that can happen, but usually that's because you've exhausted everything else. It's definitely not like a first line intervention. There's so many other things to do if boundary setting is going kind of rough or people aren't responding, you're not having a good experience. You can call out the behaviors that aren't working. You can hang up a telephone call if someone's violating your boundaries. You can say, I can only take this person in small doses. You can say, we can't talk about this topic. You can remind someone of a boundary you set. I always use the example of I set boundaries with my family when I started recovering from an eating disorder when I was younger. Hey, please don't comment on my body. Please no diet talk. And every Thanksgiving, they would violate that boundary because of habit. And I would say, hey, remember, this is a boundary for me. I feel safe with this boundary. A reminder is a consequence of them violating that. It doesn't mean I don't ever be around them. It could be that if that's what you need. But I want to point out there's a lot of other options. You can not attend events. You can create a contract with people like, hey, here's the rules. Let's sign this and agree to follow these limits. Take a class, get an education on something. You have to agree to an intervention, maybe coaching or therapy. You could talk to a third party. Let's read a book about this or write about this problem that we're having. There could be consequences that change and evolve. Think about time, duration, frequency, amount, and intent in your relationship. So there could be 2 separate people in your life who violate your boundary the same way, but there might be different consequences or reactions you have to those people depending on, is it a parent figure? Is it a stranger? Is it an acquaintance, right? How often are they doing it? How intense is it? Or how are they responding? There's a lot of nuance, and I just want to empower you. Your boundaries matter. You have some language around it, but it's not a black or white issue. They can evolve and change. And ending the relationship is an option, but usually there's other things people want to try. Assertive communication and exploration. A good reflection, name 3 physical boundaries, sexual boundaries, personal, emotional boundaries, spiritual, intellectual boundaries. And then list some boundaries that are so important to you that if someone crossed them, you would discontinue that relationship. You should know your deal breakers. Like, hey, these are deal breakers. Physical abuse is a deal breaker. Verbal assault, violence, that kind of stuff. And then list any other boundaries that come up that are important to you that We might have a different consequence that's not ending the relationship, but that would require maybe communication or a reminder or further discussion. Reflections, my friends. The last thing I want you to see are a couple affirmations, and then I'm going to open it up for questions here. Feel free to jot down any questions you have, submit those to the Q&A box. But practice these with yourself, practice these with your partner. Affirmations, self-talk, it's all part of this. Practice saying these out loud. Practice sitting with these belief systems and really rewriting and treating yourself in a way that would feel aligned with your values. I'm enough. I am worthy. I am lovable. My feelings are valid. I am important. My values matter. My needs matter. I am deserving. Self-care is my right, and I love myself. Notice if any of these make you uncomfortable, and I would encourage you to say them back to me right now. Let's hear it. I'm enough. You are enough. Let's hear it. I am worthy. You are worthy. I am lovable. You are lovable. Let's hear it. My feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. I am important. You are important. My values matter. Your values do matter. My needs matter. Your needs do matter. I am deserving. You are deserving. Self-care is my right. Self-care is your right. And then last big one, give yourself a big hug and say, I love myself. I love you too. Let's do a little Q&A together. Let's see, tips. Let's type this. I'm answering this question. Let me know if you're not seeing this, Camilla. Tips on how to initiate a hard conversation with a partner. I struggle with fear of bringing up hard topics. So this is that thing. What am I afraid? Why am I afraid of bringing this up? What am I afraid of happening? Are they going to reject me? Are they going to abandon me? Is this going to lead to conflict? Am I not so sure if this is how I feel? Think about the different things that might be affecting you. Why don't you want to bring this up? And notice what happens in your body. And I want you to put your hands on your cheeks and tell yourself, my needs matter. My boundaries matter. It's safe for me to get my own back. It's safe for me to communicate. It's safe for me to express myself. And if it's not, then we need to have a different conversation. But being brave and vulnerable and honest, even if that means a disintegration of a relationship, you have to wrestle with that. This is deconstruction, asking questions, sitting with this discomfort, and deciding I'm going to choose myself no matter what. So sit with it, sit with the hard conversation, wrestle with the fears you have, and be brave and bring it up and say, we need to have a hard conversation. Have a crucial conversation. This is a hard topic, but we need to talk about it. Hey, it's important for us to start this. And it's not always a one-time thing. Like, let's be committed to evolving. Let's be committed to having the best relationship we can have, which means we're going to talk about hard stuff. We're not going to shove it under the rug. Let's make a better life with each other. Be brave. It might be you who has to break these chains and be vulnerable and bring up this kind of stuff. Love that question. Let's see. Question. What are your thoughts or experience from couples you have worked with who each person in the relationship may have some very strong differing values to the point it causes tension or emotional mental separation? How should we manage or view these scenarios? A lot of us have radically different beliefs in relationships. This is normal. This is crucial. We have to talk about that stuff. Unless we've decided, hey, we've exhausted this. This is an unfixable problem. And this is an off topic thing, which is fine. Maybe you have to take breaks from things. But a lot of us come with strong differing views in relationships. Strong different beliefs happen. None of us are mirror images of each other. But bringing it up to your partner and saying, like, let's talk openly about our differences. I want to be understood and I want to understand you. We don't have to argue. We don't have to convince each other. We don't have to change each other. but bring up the conversations of, I want us to be able to talk about our differences safely. What do we need to do that? Do we need to set a time limit? Do we need to let one person finish before the other person goes? Right? This is complicated and it can be messy, but open this up for ongoing conversations. I see someone in the chat saying, yeah, this is tricky because their husband's religious, they're spiritual. And when we got married, I thought I wanted his religion. I don't. This is really common. Mixed faith marriage. How do we navigate things that are really important to us, but we have differences on? We navigate it. We bring it up assertively. Hey, we have conflicting beliefs here. That's okay. What do we still share and have in common? We're allowed to differ on politics, religion, social, cultural beliefs, norms. We're allowed to have different beliefs. Let's focus on what we do have in common. What are our shared values? What are we dedicated to? And I love the question specifically with spirituality. How can I help you spiritually thrive? How can I show up for you? Because I love you as a human, as my partner, regardless of our differences in beliefs. We're allowed to have differences in beliefs. How do I show up and support you in thriving and being there for you, even in our differences? What are we still connected on? So much of this is bravery, and we don't want to be rejected or abandoned by our partners. But I want to encourage you to say, how can we start talking about hard things? Hey, I took this authentic marriage partnership seminar, and I want to just bring this up. Wouldn't it be a good time to talk about this kind of stuff? Just get it going. Just throw it out there and see what happens. Favorite book on codependency is Codependent No More by something M. Beatty. Codependent No More, Madeline Beatty, Marilyn Beatty, something like that. Here's a question. How can I help family members hold set boundaries with other family members? So all you can do is remind people that their boundaries matter, but other people's boundary business is not your business. You can teach them the boundary steps I just taught you. Express gratitude, set the limit, set the boundary, and then, express the importance of the relationship. That's a nice step by step, but no boundaries are guaranteed. But you're allowed to say you have permission to set boundaries. Your boundaries matter. You have your rights to express this. But you don't have to take that on. You can share education, but holding boundaries, sometimes people aren't ready. But you can hold space and help them understand or seek to understand why they struggle. Thoughts on how to explain validation to your partner and needing validation and validations feels triggering. How to work through that trigger. So I love validation, talking about like, hey, let's practice this together. It's a simple skill. It's a great communication skill. I have a whole communication course that goes deeper into boundaries and validation and conflict and timeouts and all this kind of stuff. If you want to check that out and you and your partner could do that together, it's on tiffanyroe.com, just the communication audio course. It's a great kind of like baptism into things communication, but just saying like, hey, validation is a great communication skill. It helps de-escalate high emotions. It helps regulate us so we can get into a logical place instead of a reactive, dysregulated, heated place. We can communicate more effectively when we feel safe, and validation can create a sense of understanding and safety for both of us. So really there is a reason to validate. It's going to help regulate your nervous system and help you communicate more effectively when you feel heard and understood and safe, even if you disagree. The big ticket with validation is you can validate someone without agreeing or liking or condoning what you're talking about. But you can be like, hey, this is valid. You're feeling it. It exists. It is important. That's what I'm saying by validating you. Someone asked, do you have any other sources for self-growth and awareness, books, websites, courses? I have 16 courses on, like I said, there's one on communication. There's a whole course on inner child work, affirmations, mindfulness, self-care. I have an Instagram at heytiffanyroe.com. I mean, lots of psychology books out there and self-help books. I link a lot of those and share education on my Instagram. I think there's a lot I could say for this, but I love the work of John Gottman. He's an expert in relationships as well, a well-known psychologist in the field, or therapist rather. We'll do one more question because we're about out of time here. How do you differentiate if a boundary is helping or damaging a relationship? How do you know if it's a good or bad boundary? You know what? You're allowed to make mistakes with boundaries, even if it is a bad boundary, which I don't know what that means. Maybe it's too rigid or too loose, or hey, I'd rather have you try it out and mess up and try again than just avoid it altogether. There is no perfect script. I can write you a script and it still won't work perfectly because we're humans. When there's more than two people involved in, or more than one person rather, involved in communication, there's always a X factor. There's always a wild card. Your lens, your trauma, your background, your beliefs all come to these conversations. So if your boundary is not perfect, that's okay. Set it anyway. And let's set the standard of we talk about hard things, we communicate, we keep opening this up. Good boundary, bad boundary, you're going to learn through practice and get feedback. And if it's helping or damaging, all you can do is communicate about that. Ask the person, how does this feel for you? Is there a different way for me to express this? Or how do we navigate this? Or how do I check in on this? It's a process. It's boundaries enable the relationship. It's communication. There's no hard line, right or wrong, my friend. Great questions, everybody. Oh, I'll answer this last one. Who do you refer out to for couples counseling? I own 2 clinics in Utah. We have mindful counseling in Provo and a new location in Sugar House in Salt Lake, and we have great marriage therapists there. I actually don't provide counseling anymore, but we have 15 therapists in the Provo office. We're hiring and filling up in Sugar House, Salt Lake right now. So that's mindfulcounselingutah.com. You can always find that link to our therapy clinic at Mindful Counseling and also through my Instagram at Hey Tiffany Roe. Woo, we covered a ton. Thank you so much, y'all. What a great deep dive. If you want to follow up with me, feel free to come hang out on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM. There's lots of stuff there. But yeah, thanks for having me. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was so awesome. I just was like in awe the whole time. Learned so much. I love the lists too of like all of the values and the needs. Like never have I ever seen them all together like that. And it just like really, really filled my mind with all of the things that I didn't even realize I had as needs or values. So I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. Yeah. Okay. Really quick, when you log off, you'll see like a survey pop up. Please fill out the survey so we can know how we can improve the webinars and just what you liked about it, what you learned. And also this recording of this webinar will be available tomorrow. And if you register for the course or for the webinar, which is everybody, you'll have the link sent to you via email tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's everything. Thank you so much again, Tiffany. You are the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a great evening.
Bye, y'all.